Welcome back. Now we will begin to take notes over George Seurat, and we will practice pointillism. Please open up your sketchbook to page 6. We learned about Georgia O'Keeffe already, as well as the artist Vincent van Gogh. What you may not know is that all three of these artists lived around the same time. In fact, George Seurat and Vincent van Gogh knew each other. They were friends. So this particular space is where we're going to write the name of our current artist. It is George, but there's an S on the end because remember, he was French. So there's a silent S, and his last name is Seurat. In America, we say it incorrectly. We say George Seurat with a hard T, rot. And Seurat rhymes with dot, which is kind of cool. And that is Pointillism. That's the name of his type of art. So it's pretty handy that Seurat and dot rhyme. However, if you are in France, you would say Georges Seurat, no T. Would you please practice that? I'll say it once more. Georges Seurat. Okay, so now we're going to be turning in our sketchbooks to practice pointillism. We will be on page 22. So George Seurat was a painter, and he noticed, or he made an assumption. He said every other artist, every other painter mixes their paints on a palette, on a tray, and then they put it onto their painting. Now we know that's not quite true because we know that when Van Gogh would mush his blues and the yellows and where they intersect, it would become green. But Seurat is saying that's more like an accident. That's more like something that happens while you're blending. But he said, I think what we could do is this. I think if we take two totally different colors and we don't mix them, but we put them in the same space, then when you view it from a distance, your eye will blend those colors for you and make a new color. So we're going to experiment with that. Now we know that red and yellow, if we mix those together, should make what? And if you're not sure, remember you can flip back here to your color wheel. If you mix red and yellow, you get orange. Okay, so red and yellow is going to be orange, we hope. Red and blue is going to be violet or purple. And yellow and blue, remember if we mix yellow and blue, you're going to be getting a green, we hope. But let's see if this works. So at this point, you're going to be taking your three primary markers. And we're going to be putting the dots of color into these spaces on top of each other. And we'll see if it makes this secondary color when we see it from a distance. So at this point, we're going to take the yellow and red, and we're always going to do the lighter color first. Normally, if I was with you, I would say, well, why? Why are we going to do that? Well, we're going to be putting the yellow down first anytime it asks for yellow, because then when you put your darker color on, it will sit on top of the yellow, and if it picks up some of the yellow on the marker, it won't show up. But if we put the red marker down first, and then we go in with the yellow, some of that red would get onto the yellow, and it would stain the tip. So to keep our markers clean, we're always going to put the lighter of the colors down first, if we can. George Seurat used paint. We've been doing a lot of paint, so we're going to take a little break and use marker. So at this point, we're going to focus on the yellow and the red and see if we can get an orange. Please uncap your marker. Okay, I've put the cap onto the back of my marker so I don't lose it. And at this time, I also want us to think about how to apply the dots. Resist the urge to slam the marker down. What that's going to do is give you big patches, not tiny dots. In this particular case, the smaller the dots, the nicer it's going to look. So I'm going to begin randomly applying hundreds of little dots. I'd like you to please do this as well. While you're doing this and filling this space, I'm going to tell you a little story about George Seurat. So George Seurat was born about 1859, 1860, somewhere in there. So about 160 years ago, we'll say, a little bit over. And he was born in France. Keep going with these dots. Make sure you go all the way out of the border. And during that time, at least in France and America too, people were divided by economic class systems, by their money. The rich people associated with the other rich people. They had parties together, their children played together. Eventually, the rich young people would marry each other and they would stay rich. The money would be passed down. Okay, when you have, I'm going to pause the story here, when you have most of it covered in yellow, but still a little bit of the white showing, you're going to cap your marker and you're going to get your second color. This time it's red. Let's say we did 200 yellow dots. We'll just pretend. Now we're going to do a little bit less, maybe like 120 red dots. Okay, still going nice and tiny and in a random pattern. So back to their story. So George Seurat, oh wait, I didn't finish that. If you were born into middle class, then I would associate all of us as middle class wealth. You have parents or adults who take care of you, who have jobs, who work or try to work. You may have a home and an apartment that you go to. You're not living on the streets, likely. You have more than one change of clothes. And most of the time you have food to eat. Okay, that's middle class. And then, so those middle class people all work together at middle class jobs and they associate with each other. They marry each other and they stay middle class. And then you have the poor. Van Gogh was part of that. The poor people who barely have enough food to eat. In today's world, you know what day the restaurants throw out their food and you're waiting there at the dumpster. You maybe don't have clean clothes and you don't have food to eat. You may be living on the streets. And those people were allowed to talk to only those people, and they stayed poor their whole lives. Okay, I'm going to stop here. So we're talking about the three class systems based on money that was there during Van Gogh and Seurat's time. Okay, so at this point, doesn't look very cool. We've got red dots, we've got yellow dots, nothing exciting's happening. But here's what Seurat said. He said, yeah, if you get up close, it's not going to look very cool. However, if you step far away, your eyes should blend those colors together. So what I'm going to do is lift this up and possibly, let's see if I can do this, lower this down to a far, far away distance to where then your eye can blend those colors together and see the color orange. Would you please pass your paper to one person, maybe a person close to you. You guys hold it up. Maybe you'll need to back away a little bit and see if you were able to make orange. Would you please stop the video at this time and check your work? If you are not able to share your work with another person, maybe you're doing this assignment at home by yourself, you're going to need to just set it up, maybe along a counter or against the sofa, so that you can see it when you walk away from a distance.